Let's create a kiosk in PowerPoint. This is a fun way to create an interactive presentation. Let's go ahead and select blank. And one of the things I'll do right off the bat is I'll format my slide layout to blank also. And let's go ahead and put a background on this. Design tab, customize group, format background. And I'll use a picture from a file. And let's see, we'll take our thumb drive and let's see what we have here. Oh, nice background, JPEG. What I'll usually do with backgrounds in order to make them sort of less obtrusive is to increase the transparency level. So we'll make this about 50, 55, 56%. And just as a nice way to keep it just a little more subtle in the background. I'll apply to all. That way when I create new slides, I'll be all set. And I'm going to create this on a drone. So I'm going to insert my images. Let's see, I have an image for my drone. There we go. And I think I should put a title on this. So let's go ahead and insert a title. Now I'm not really feeling this with the colors. So I'm going to go and change my design color scheme to something a little different. Let's go with this green one. Now let's see what I get here. If we go to WordArt, I have some different options. So let's see, we'll go with something like that. And we'll put the DJI Phantom 3. I think that's a standard. We'll just go with 3. Leave it up to people's imagination. And let's take that and we can put effects on that text if we want. A little bit of reflection, even some shadow. Gives it a little bit of depth like that. One thing a lot of people like to do is sort of take a shape. You can take shapes if you don't like the ones you have here. We can go get more. And we could take shapes like this and just sort of put them in the background. We'll send it backwards or send it to the back, either one. And you can use presets. They're a good thing. They look good. But I also like to change them up a little bit sometimes. And a lot of times I like to format the actual fill. Now if this was a solid color, I'll show you the difference here. If I fill this with a solid color and I go to there, the solid fill, I can adjust the transparency. Now that seems fairly common sense. Most people can do that. What happens is they get a little confused though if you had used one of the presets that maybe has a gradient in it. Well, you can do the same thing with a gradient. The only thing is you have to remember that your gradient stops, each one of the stops. And the stops are the places where each color begins or ends. And if I wanted to change that stop color, for example, to something dark, I could do that and it gives you that effect. And as I move that stop one way or the other, it just becomes that position in the gradient. So let's undo that. And we'll leave that like it is. But now I have to take each stop and I can set the transparency value for it. So sometimes I vary it. I'll do the top stops about 25. We'll take that middle one and we'll go about 50 or so. And then we'll take that end one again and we'll do that about 25. 28. There we go. And that's just another way to do something like that. So remember, these shapes can also have effects on them if you want. If you want to do a shadow on that for a little depth, reflections, you name it. So there we have our title. And we have our image here. We try to choose something with good quality. And to give it a little depth, why don't we put some picture effects on it. Let's give it a basic shadow. And I'm not really happy with the actual shadow, so let's go into the shadows options. And let's maybe change the size of the shadow. Let's blur it out a little bit more. And then we could probably put a glow on it. Let's see what we have here. We have some presets. And then I'll take that glow and maybe change its size and its transparency just a little bit. Just a little bit of a glow on there. Let it stand out just a little bit. Alright, so now let's get into the actual design of the interface. So we want to create some informational slides here. So if I inserted some informational slides, 1, 2, 3, let's say, I want to navigate from areas on this main menu to these different informational slides. So I'm going to create a button first of all. So I'm going to use my shapes. So I'll just pick a shape here. And let's draw this. Now I'm going to try to do this so that it looks pretty close to some of the other elements on there. I'll make a button out of that. I'll do some effects with it. Well, maybe we'll try a little bevel. We'll pop it out. That looks pretty good. And I'll do the same thing with this. I'll go into its shape styles format options. And I can change the gradient stops a little bit just for a little bit of transparency. And this is sort of the style of the day. And I'm happy with that. You do things like this, and then instead of doing it all over again, you just duplicate the button. All right, and that's an easy way to duplicate the button and duplicate it again. Sometimes, it flies over there. That's all right. We'll duplicate the button like that. So let's add text to the button. You don't have to go up and get the text tool. You don't have to use insert. With your button selected, you can just type. And so we have our rotors, but then you can always go and change the color of the text, the size of the text, so on and so forth. And let's make this the gimbal. And in this we'll put the, the new ones are 4K. 4K camera. Let's say something like that. And if you wanted to get fancy, you could then go and insert your shapes. We have these things called elbow connectors. And they're pretty neat, actually. So if we go ahead and do an elbow connector, we have our rotor like that. Now, they don't stand out that well at first. So what I like to do is go right into the outline and change its weight a little bit, sometimes up to about 3. We can give it that same shape color scheme as the other one. Oh, we have to go back and change the weight again. That's a preset style. And, give it the same type of effects as you did the other ones. And what I'll do with that is I'll take that, duplicate it, and we'll use that. Again, we'll take these connectors, connect right up to there, and how about that? We'll duplicate that one, and we'll take the gimbal one. How about we attach that there? Something like this, and something like that. There we go. So we have that. Now we would probably want to, give possibly the end user a little bit more of a hint. I know it's fairly intuitive. You know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. But maybe somebody else wouldn't know so much. So maybe we'll do something like this. Let's take a button. We'll duplicate it. Let's just put the word button on there. And we'll sort of make that a little smaller. Let's go to the Home tab and we'll reduce the size of the text. We'll reduce the overall size of the button. And maybe we'll put something down here. You know what I'll do? I'm going to take this guy, duplicate him. Let's put this down here. Now he needs to go get a little bit smaller. And maybe we'll just give him a slightly different style. Like that. And we'll send that to the back. Send it to the back. I think we could take this guy, just make him just a tad smaller. Using our arrow keys, we can navigate. Let's say we want some text on here that would tell the end user what to really do. All right, so let's see if we can make that just a little bit bigger. And using the arrow keys to arrow down. Let's say we want to insert some text. We want to tell the person to, we want to insert actually a text box. We want the person to click on a, and then some space, to learn more. All right, how about that? Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, we can go into our text box and maybe take up a couple of spaces, click on a button to learn more. And then, of course, we could take this, we could shrink this up right here. We can do that. We could take the entire group of objects and we could do this. Format, align to the slide, align center. And there we go. And that'll center all those up. And we'll have to take that button back again. So let's go ahead and take this text box, send it backwards, so we can get it behind that button. And we'll use our arrow key because we don't want that to actually be centered. So there we have the makings of a simple menu. I think what I'll do is reuse some of the elements that I've already designed. I can use this element here and copy it and paste it here as one of my text boxes, possibly like that. So this would be an info box, I should say. This is where the information for the, let's say, the rotors is going to go. So this is where information about the rotors. And you would take that text, you could left justify, you can use this alignment tool here. Oops, sorry. You could use this alignment tool here to align the top, the middle, or the bottom. If you needed to, of course, you know how to adjust font sizes and styles and all of that. So we'll use that like that. And how about we use this button? I want to reuse that. Let's copy that over and paste our button here. And we'll line that up like that, and we'll just stretch that out. We'll make this our sort of our title. And I'll left justify that text. And if I wanted to, I could make it a little bigger. You know what? You could even go into this text and put a text style on it. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could go just onto the text itself, and I think that'll look cool. We'll take that. Looks good. Now remember, this is going to be one of our informational slides, so we're going to need a button to get back to the main menu. I think I have just the idea. I'm going to insert a picture I found. I've got a picture up here of a controller. Let's take our controller. It already has the background transparent. It's a PNG. I'm going to use this as my main menu. Well, let's go with our theme. Let's give it a little bit of a glow. Whoa, 5 points. Glow might not be the right idea because the transparency is kind of taking that to the next level. So how about we do a little bit of a shadow? Maybe go into the shadow properties. Let's just change the size with just a tad. And maybe the blur like that. And for some intuitiveness, we'll insert a text box down here. And we'll call this main menu. Let's make it bold. Maybe shrink it down a little bit. We'll put this right here. Now, one of the things we want to remember is that we do not want to ever hyperlink text. It does a horrible looking thing to it, and we want to make sure that we only hyperlink our shapes, our images, our other objects, and you don't want to group things because you can't hyperlink them either. So we're not going to group this to the actual text called main menu. So we're just going to leave it there. We'll just put it right near it. But to make it look cool, or to make sure we don't click on the text, let's format it and bring it all the way to the front. That way there's no mistaking. It's definitely the main menu, but there's no mistaking that we click on the actual text. And let's see what happens when we come and visit the rotors. Do we have any other images that we could put in here? I think what I'll do is, let's see, I have insert picture. Maybe they come and get some, let's see, the camera, the controller. You know what I'll do? I'll just take a copy of this image. Copy. Let's paste it here. This is just a common thing we can do. I think I might take the glow off of it though. So if we go here, glow, let's do none. Sort of strip that out. And maybe the shadow, none. And what I'm going to do is here, just to sort of highlight that rotor, we're going to crop this image. Let's crop it like this and like this, and we'll bring this edge over just a little bit, and possibly, well, let's see if we can put a frame on it. Yeah, there we go. We'll crop it with that shape just like that, and now hit the crop button, and now you've cropped that. And of course, you can adjust the level of the roundedness. And we have something like that. Obviously, you would populate more information. You can have other pictures and things in here to make this more interesting. So that's created. Now, we would add animations afterwards, but let's go ahead and take this and do our first main. Let's get the interactivity done. So I have my rotors button. I'm going to insert a hyperlink in the document, and this is going to go obviously to slide 2 here. If you click on slide 2, it'll show you a preview of it. Now you should give it a screen tip. We know these as tooltip text or balloon helps. So we would here to learn more about the rotors. Let's see, rotors. And we click OK. Now that's going to show up when you roll over the button, when you're playing it, of course. And click OK. And now to get back to the main menu, we're going to choose our main menu button, or the object that we're using as a main menu button. And again, insert in the links group, hyperlink. That would be slide 1. And of course, you can give it a screen tip. Return to main menu. Click OK. Click OK again. And now if you try this, it would work. But it will also work, because it's the next slide, if you just hit the arrow key. So in order to lock this down into what's called a kiosk mode, you must go to the slideshow and setup group and set up slideshow. And you need to check this radio button called Browse at Kiosk. If not, it'll only be just a PowerPoint presentation and go from slide to slide. You want to lock any type of advancement of slides or interactivity other than what you have designed. So we'll browse that kiosk, we'll click OK, and now we'll just test it by hitting F5. And we have rotors. There's our tooltip text or our screen tip. Click, and we have our main menu. Click, and you'll notice that I can't click or use arrow keys, and it was simplified by not seeing any of the navigational items or icons that you would normally see down here and in a typical PowerPoint presentation. That's how you can verify, one way to verify that you have it locked in kiosk. Well, the other is just to click around and make sure that you don't have anything going on. So there's the link, there's back, and I'll hit escape to get back here. And we'll take a look at that. That looks pretty good. Now, of course, I want to show people this because it's a really neat thing to do. Once you design this, now you would also put animations on this and all of those, but once you have got the basic design here, and even the hyperlinks designed into the actual kiosk, if you selected everything on this, so if you went to home, and you did select all right, or hit Control A. If you copy this and paste here into this slide, your hyperlink information is still retained in this. Same thing with the animations that you would set. Now you have to go in and make some changes. This is now the gimbal. Whoops, let's make it all caps. Gimbal, and this would be information that you would put here about the gimbal, and you would swap this out, of course. Maybe go back and get your picture, right? Copy it. We'll paste in here. Let's see. We're going to talk more about the gimbal in this informational slide. So I guess I would do the same thing. I would strip it of my effects. In this case, you don't always have to do that, but it just looks good for this one. We'll go and get our glow and strip it out of that. And then, of course, I would crop this. So we're talking about the gimbal. Well, make sure you grab the crop handles correctly. And the gimbal is this thing that the camera hangs on to. All right. And it's a pretty big deal in these drones. That's what gives it its stability. And I'll crop it. Again, I'm going to use a shape. Or crop it and then go and give it a type of shape. I guess I could do that. Just crop it and then give it the style that we did before. That's a good thing to do. We could increase the size here just a little bit. Oh, we don't want to damage the aspect ratio. Now I could look from slide to side and see where I am and see if it's fairly decent. Looks good. And like I said, if I went back here and now I made this link from the gimbal button, insert hyperlink, and did it to this one, slide 3, I believe. Yep, gimbal, screen tip. So we're going to learn more about the gimbal. Click OK. All right, that'll show up. I don't even have to program or create the interactivity for this main menu button because it was in this one and I copied and pasted it and put it in the same spot. So let's test. F5, learn more about the gimbal. Click, goes to the gimbal information slide, main menu, and there we go. So that's how you create basic interactivity. That's the fundamentals of creating an interactive kiosk. You would just continue designing your informational slides, try to use consistent themes throughout. Makes it look a little more professional. And in the next video, I'll show you how to add sounds so that as you do mouse rollovers and button clicks, you can have it sort of spruced up a little bit. We'll add some audio to the background and we'll animate the entrance effects to items on the screen.